Are you ready? I got something new for you guys. Welcome to another episode of Love Tribe. Coming from my sacred space here at home, where I like to keep it nice and cozy, and real and authentic. I think it's important. So today I want to discuss something that finally I was able to get my perspective because I got my own experience. Culture is so much about telling us the pros and cons, feeding us information and news that kind of guides us towards a particular decision and opinion. It's very important that we keep the mindset or the mental orientation of don't choose and don't make a judgment until you've had the experience yourself or until you've been in that situation. You have to constantly remind yourself of that, because if not, you will very easily fall prey, if not physically, mentally, to what the media puts out there, whether it is media channels that's on TV or social media networks, or even people who have their own social media channel, even like what I'm posting right now. You always have to apply discernment and allow yourself to have your own experiences. So with the new release of like a really popular, very popular movie that just seems to bring to life something that's so amazing for people who at some point used to play with these particular toys, and we still have children today that play with them too, but it's the fact that the generation of people that used to only imagine something like this coming to life actually gets to see it now come to life. And I'm talking about, I had to pause because I had to think of like how to word it. Because sometimes I still think of myself as a kid. I don't really think that age has anything to do with you as a person. It's how you see yourself in your mind. But that aside, so I'm talking about the movie Barbie that was released. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went with my daughter. She really wanted to watch it with me. At some point, my daughter had a Barbie themed room. Like Barbie was on the wall, okay? Barbie bed, Barbie pillows, Barbie house, Barbie dream house. She had Barbie dream houses in like grandma's house and my house. It was Barbies in the car. Barbie's everywhere for a very long time. And I played with Barbie too. I played with Barbie. I was fascinated by all the different careers, all the different genres that she could fit into. And it really not only molded me as a woman in a way, but even when it comes to our expression, how I express myself, I very much always identified with, just being on point, looking great, not to impress anyone, really just to impress me for myself, because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel great with myself. So anyway, I went to see the movie, and after listening to a lot of media debacle, social media influencers, and other social media people that actually work in the reporting industry, on TV, but have their own platform online on YouTube and their own platform with their own online news channels, and listening to the patriarchy and matriarchy perspective and how the movie is gearing towards one side versus another. It's actually showing men in a negative light. It's showing women in a light of wanting to take over and have complete control. It's showing this and everything that I've heard so far has all been related to the materialistic side of the world. It's all been related to these ideas of, the patriarchy shouldn't be in control, the matriarchy should, or if the matriarchy is in control, well then, there's so much that they can do. A woman can't be in all these positions and still be fabulous and fantastic because she has to be perfect, and you can't be perfect. I actually took the movie in a completely different way. After having a near-death experience, I took the movie in a different way, and maybe other people who have had experiences where they've almost like lost their life completely will probably see a movie like this and feel the same way, or even someone who's been through something very traumatic, you'll probably see a movie like this and think the same way, or not. I mean, but I hope you do, because I feel like society, people forget society. We actually don't belong to any society. Nobody belongs to a culture. Nobody belongs to a particular country. Nobody belongs. Like, patriotism is a farce also. We are humanity. We are all humans. We're all the same. According to whatever created everything, whether it's a force, an energy, or if you want to call it God, to me I call it God, we are all the same. We are all the same. We're all the same. There's no difference between us. As much as you want to say there is not. We're all the same. So this idea that a movie like Barbie, that pretty much just depicts with adult actors how little girls really play with their Barbies, like literally that's what they do, show me a little girl that's not, oriented to play with dolls, that doesn't play with Barbie this way. I mean, maybe they don't use the same exact storylines, but they do have these similar storylines. When I used to play with Barbie, Ken lived for Barbie. All the Kens lived for Barbie. And so did Ken's friends. All of the male figures in my Barbie land lived for Barbie to, like, acknowledge him. That was, like, the whole thing, The whole purpose of that is girls feeling like they are, above, and they don't need necessarily a Ken or a male figure to feel, valuable. It's that idea of being independent and being able to be self-sufficient. It's just so amazing, and I think that that's amazing whether you're male or female. But for little girls that are pretty much kind of like weaned with this idea of having to be nurturers and caregivers and hormonally that already starts to come out, to have a toy where you don't have to baby that toy, you don't have to play mommy to that toy can actually represent you in a wannabe idea of your life. That's amazing. So of course, every little girl that plays Barbies, other than the storyline of Barbie being a mommy or being a babysitter or cleaning her dream house or the little doll house she has, the other storyline Barbie has, if Ken is involved, is that Ken lives for Barbie. I don't know why people are so shocked with that. And it's called Barbie Land. Like the whole product was produced with the idea of the female being, the lead figure for little girls. And I think that's wonderful to give that, because girls do have to build their confidence. Confidence is very important in order to have successful relationships. Has nothing to do with wanting to overtake men. Like, we've got to stop with this. The materialistic aspect of the world has resulted in us mentally identifying scenarios like this and immediately running or racing to they're pinning one against the other, And even in the movie, I don't want to give a spoiler, but in the movie they gave an excellent example as to how to take over something that's been taken over from you, like how to take it back. They give an excellent example of that, of how your ego plays on your weaknesses, on your insecurities. It's actually your enemy, your own ego. So I didn't see the movie from the perspective of making men look bad. I actually saw it from the perspective of men realizing after they're powerful that that's not everything, that there's still something missing, that's not enough, that doesn't even matter. And realizing that women being in power, I also realized the same thing with the main character, because the movie for me was very much about what is plastic in the world, or that most of us are plastic in the world, and we lost our ability and our understanding and our value when it comes to feeling. The movie was about feeling, wanting to feel like there's more, and whatever that more is, wanting to experience it. That's what I took from the movie. The movie's about feeling whatever that is for you, feeling seen, feeling beautiful, feeling valued, feeling worthy. The movie was about feeling. I saw it from that perspective. I didn't see how the role playing of the male figures and the female figures when it came to power. I didn't take it as one wanting to be over the other. I didn't see it as a war, even though that's what the storyline was based off of, and it lends to a very comical scenario in the storyline with Barbie and all the other characters, which by the way, Pregnant Midge was hilarious. I had one. I never knew how to play with her. I just kept her pregnant the whole time. Like every time I played with Barbie, she never stopped being pregnant. So she was pregnant forever, which I guess kind of like is some subconscious fear. Like, a woman is pregnant, you want to have a baby, but at the same time you don't, because you know how painful it's gonna be. I mean, that's just the reality. I don't know why people run away from like innocence. That's what it is. When you go to see a movie like that, which is designed off of the idea of a toy. It's a little bit similar to Toy Story, but different in that it uses, real life human characters, real life human actors, whereas Toy Story was an actual animation. But when you go to see a movie like that, how do you not look at it from an innocent perspective? A perspective of, it's about feelings. It's about wanting to feel, wanting to experience those feelings, wanting to have those feelings, wanting to go back to feeling, wanting to go back to, allowing yourself to be emotional. That's what I saw the movie as. Allow yourself to be emotional, allow yourself to feel again, allow yourself to return to your innocence. That's what I saw. The difference is they used characters that are already fully grown, they already exist in their own world, but one of them starts to feel like she wants to experience things differently. She wants to experience them from a different perspective. That's what I took it as. And I think the reason why in culture, they jump the gun to, discuss feminism versus or matriarchy, patriarchy topics is because that's the easiest route. When you're grown up and your mind now is part of this grown-up body, you start to forget your innocence, and that's something that culturally we need to fend for. Because even yourself, even though you're a fully grown person, you're no longer a child, or you're no longer little anymore. You're no longer 4, 5, or 6 years old. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't mean that your innocence should be lost completely. What do I mean by that? Innocence allows you to experience the world and to savor moments in a sweeter way, in a better way, in a way where you value things a little bit more. So when you're valuing them more, you're less likely to be disrespectful. You're less likely to move with a lack of integrity. You're less likely to hurt another person's feelings just because you want to be correct, you want to be right. So I saw the Barbie movie with my daughter, and I went in there with an image from the media that just makes the movie seem very negative. Like, watch out if your kids go and watch this. It has this kind of like evil agenda. No, it doesn't. The only evil agenda comes from your mindset. Your mindset either absorbs it to be that or not. Yes, are there agendas out there that are meant to like veer people in a certain direction and orientation to, shift their energy into a more negative slope? Yes, there is. That's not a lie. But in a particular production like this one, I think it was about wake up to feeling. You want the need that everyone has to, or that some people feel that what's missing. If you just take a moment to contemplate, to close your eyes, to meditate in a prayerful way, I promise you, your soul is going to ask you to wake up to feeling again. Wake up that innocence that allows you to feel the beauty of the simplicity of life. I'll give you an example, like buying your favorite drink, a coffee or soda or shake. I wouldn't say something alcoholic because if we're talking about someone that's younger that they can't do that. Buying your favorite drink, picking a spot where to go in nature, like outside, and sitting down and just taking in the sip by sip slowly and just observing that environment you're in for that moment and just allowing yourself to enjoy that. Not be concerned with anything else. Observing the people that are there. how they're interacting with one another. How are the children playing? How are, if there's adult people, what are they doing? And just kind of just watching and just admiring how beautiful that is. When have we lost, or why did we lose, so many of us, why do we lose our ability to cherish what's beautiful around us? Is it because we ourselves don't find ourselves beautiful? Is it because we ourselves have a difficulty accepting, the love that we should be giving to ourselves? So we don't even know how to accept the love that is given towards us when it does happen because we find it too good to be true. Another thing that innocence will bring back to you, other than just the sense of waking up to feeling again, is to understand, what your purpose is, what your role is. Innocence allows you to understand what your role is because it brings you back to the simplest form of what you used to feel. And sometimes the simplest form of what you used to feel had the answers of what you needed to know. The more you grow and the more things become complicated, or I shouldn't say complicated, let's say the more you grow and you accumulate data, right? Scientifically, the idea is as you get more data, you have more evidence that shows you the yes and the no's of what you should be doing, or that shows you the pros and the cons, or that show the data that you collect over time shows to you which pathway is a better pathway, right? But what really happens on a spiritual level is the more data we collect, the more it's complicating and the more it's weighing on our energy. It actually is weighing on your spirit because it quiets down your spirit and it starts to add this materialistic worldview to your mind. You have to bring back balance to that. You have to kind of quiet down the materialistic side of it, kind of like have the data, but store it away for a moment and allow your spirit to revert back to an innocent setting. It doesn't matter what you did in life. It doesn't matter what choices you've made. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. None of that matters. Just because those things happen doesn't mean you can't go back to a state of innocence. Are there things in the world that you maybe have to pay the consequences for? Yes, but once you're paying the consequences for it doesn't mean that you lose your ability to go back to a state of innocence. You can still revert back to that. Everyone can. In some spiritual settings, they can call that deliverance, and others they can call it salvation. But you can still revert back to that. Even in New Age, they talk about energy cleansing all the time. Energy cleansing, energy shifting. So you can do that. You definitely can. So the movie Barbie, to me, kind of depicts, it uses a female character representing Barbie, but that character could have been anyone. It could be male or female. Especially in the world we live in today, that it seems like it doesn't matter if you're a woman anymore. If you're born a woman or not doesn't matter. There's people that can now say they're a woman. So why does it matter what gender is depicting what in the movie Barbie? You could put yourself in any one of those characters and understand that perspective if you put yourself in those shoes. Life is not so much about looking at the male and female side of it. Life is about putting yourself in the shoes of that person, no matter who they are, so that you can have empathy. Emotional intelligence doesn't rely on gender. Emotional intelligence relies on choice. Your choice to enact or apply empathy or not. So before you start to pass judgment and before you actually start to point a finger or to have a perspective, even if you are curating a perspective from something, before you are designing that perspective of something to share with others, have the experience yourself. That's what I want to share here. That's what I wanted to discuss here in this episode. Have the experience yourself. Much like when people go to college, I don't believe college is for everyone. A lot of people become super successful, never get a college degree. And some people have college degrees and don't do nothing. I life coached a person, has a chemical engineer degree, Jobless and homeless. They, because of choice, they just chose professionally to not dedicate themselves to build anything for their life. Why? That's their choice. You know, they just chose a life that had a path that led them down there, and now they're trying to rebuild it. You know, and then I'm friends with people that don't have a college degree, haven't even like, they graduated high school, they start like an imported snack business, and they're a business owner, and they're doing wonderful right now, like financially set, you know, and they're not even 30. So college is not for everyone. That doesn't make you or break you. What makes you or breaks you is your mindset, and what you turn into an income based on what you see as a purpose for your life. So why do I say this? Because the same goes for emotional intelligence. Applying empathy has nothing to do with gender. You know, it has nothing to do with gender. It has everything to do with your choice to put yourself in those shoes or not. And why would you do that? Well, so that you could understand why a person feels that way. So you could understand why maybe they have those behaviors. So that we can approach each other with more compassion, with more grace. You know, I had a moment years ago. It was actually my first life coaching client. He couldn't understand why he was unhappy in his life. And I don't know if I've shared this story in a different episode. If I did, I'm sorry. I can't share details because I don't want to give the person's name away, but I will say this: living in a penthouse, carefree life, not really having to work Monday through Friday regularly. They only needed to go into their business office basically just to kind of check up on how things are doing. So they could go in like once or twice a week and it's fine. And at some point they could even do it remotely, so they didn't even have to be there in person. They were doing it from their boat, right? But they were miserable and they couldn't figure out why. And when it came down to it, and I had them do a list of, you know, the A through Z of what you do in a day, in a week, in a month, what are you involved in? This person wasn't involved in anything that didn't involve himself. Everything he did was around himself. You know, self-fulfilling everything. Activities, whatever. Even like his relationship, the person he had wasn't even a relationship. It was someone he paid for to have in a relationship setting with him. You know, so that the relationship could go according to his conditions. So his partner didn't even have a say-so of what was or wasn't okay with her because she was financially provided for. But in a commitment that wasn't a commitment. It was kind of like, it's so funny because I think they used the term in the Barbie movie actually, long-term, long-distance, non-committed girlfriend or non-commitment girlfriend. That's what this guy had. So his question to me was like, how can I have a better life? Like, I want my life to be better. You know, I have all this. This is what's happening to me. I feel depressed. Like I have to resort to medication to help me, but the medication just physically ruins me because I have no energy. How can I have a better life? That's why he actually found me. And after analyzing what he wrote in this notebook that he then gave to me, and then I checked the notebook, you know, by myself so I can kind of like analyze the answers. When I got back to him, I said, you know, you want a better life? He's like, yeah. I said, be a better person. Nothing in your list of weekly to-dos. I had him chronicle 2 weeks. You don't do anything for anyone else other than yourself. And even when you do something for another person, it's with a manipulate them. It's manipulating them through money that you give to them in order for them to be the way you want them to be for you. Like, are you generous in any way that has anything to do with not satisfying yourself? Like, generous without expectation, you know? He couldn't mention one. So sometimes the better life is not going to come from more things. It's not going to come from position of power. It's not going to come from, you know, being able to own a ton of horses and horseback ride whenever you feel like it, and you think that that's what makes you feel powerful. It's not that. A better life it comes from you being a better person to the people around you. Do you leave room for understanding? Are you flexible in disagreements? Are you okay not having the last word? Do you do anything to help other people? Are you a good listener? Are you generous with your time? Or do you try to cut everyone off because you have better things to do. There's a lot of people who have this mentality: I have better things to do than to sit here and do A, B, and C or waste my time. People that actually consider sometimes the situation with someone else as a waste of time. Nothing's a waste of time, because first of all, if you're there, you're meant to be there. You're meant to have that experience. You're meant to go through that. So it's not a waste of time. It's a learning experience. Now you might say, well, then when does it become something that's solid? Or if you want to talk about relationships, right? Because that's where people always take it down that route, even in life coaching. Usually they're seeking someone like me to get coached because they need to better themselves in order to have a relationship. So, and it becomes very challenging because then when you're a life coach and you're going into, the ocean of dating, you quickly can catch on to how a person's behavior is to figure out if a relationship or not should be happening, with you and that person. So that's a big pro to it. But a huge con to it is that you can't escape the ability to discern what's going on. You can't escape it once you get it. So when people have sought me out, it's really been to help their mindset so they can become a better person, so they can actually handle a loving relationship. With family, with having more friends, or sometimes it's been because they wanted to better their romantic life. That's always been at the baseline of every single client I've coached. So when you go to see this movie and the Barbie movie, and you listen to all these cultural posts, that's on YouTube, that's on Instagram, that's on TV, or talk shows, and they're trying to depict a production like this in a negative way, they are only looking at it from the material aspect of the world. They're not looking at it with the eyes of, this depicts characters that try to imitate what they see in the world and realize that it does not make them happy. It does not make them feel fulfilled. And on top of that, they still have a desire and a need to want to experience feeling. But feeling what? Feeling authentic. Feeling authentic. Feeling the depth. Feeling like there's more to life than just the routine of the everyday. The routine of the everyday. Now, that doesn't mean routines are bad, because everything's about perspective and your mindset. Routines are not bad. But for a lot of people, I use that because for them, the concept of a routine is negative. I see a routine as being really positive. I love waking up in the morning, and I love, even before I get out of bed, if I'm lucky enough to be home when the sun's already up, it's already, the sunrise has happened, I love to just look outside my window and see the beams of the sunlight on the leaves of the trees right outside my window. I love it. Like, that makes me fall in love with my day. And then I get up and it's quiet in the house, and I just make, a cup of coffee, and I listen to, I normally in the morning like to listen to some kind of prayer, a meditative prayer session or prayer podcast, okay? Or sometimes a posted sermon from one of my favorite preachers. Stephen Furtick is one of them. And I'll listen to that, I'll have my coffee, and I just internalize the message I'm hearing, but then I also take a moment to just, be thankful, like to take note and to actually say it to myself what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my house. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful just to be here and to be seeing this and to be feeling this. So I very much related to the character in the movie, because before I had my near-death experience, which was in 2016, when I was hit by a drunk driver that did kill me, and I had to be resuscitated. And if you want to know the story, I think it was my third episode, I gave the testimony of the whole event. I Before my accident, I lived what I consider to be a zombie life. It was a zombie life. My face even looked, my body was like that of a zombie too. It was like I was living, but I was not existing. I was just existing. It was like I was dead. I was dead. Even though I was living, I was breathing, I was doing all the things that you do day in and day out, but I wasn't really living. I wasn't enjoying anything. After I had that experience and that crash happened, it was like the biggest blessing of my life. Everything has a different color when I look at it. The way the light reflects off of people and the faces of the people that I love, whether we're on good terms or we have arguments, it does happen. I still appreciate that. I don't try to make it worse. The moments that used to be rushed, that I would rush through or try to get done so I could have the agenda fulfilled, I'm more like, maybe the agenda doesn't need to be fulfilled today. Maybe that's not what's meant to happen. I need to maybe do this in a better way, in a slower way. I do notice that after that moment, I started to experience feelings more intensely. People became more valuable to me. It became also easier, since I almost was gone and then came back, had an opportunity to come back. It's easier now for me to be authentic. I'm not afraid to actually share the reality of how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking, even with flirting, because flirting is fun when you're single. Even if you're married, it's also, you should do it with your spouse. You should never stop flirting. But things I would be uncomfortable with before, or that I just was not able to, was just so, because again, I was just existing, my essence was not as vibrant as it is right now. And after my accident, it was like all of a sudden I became sensitive to everything, but in a good way. A sensitivity to noticing beautiful colors on a painting, sensitivity to the smells around me, the feelings of things around me, the feelings of people around me, the value of being a parent, whether married or single, didn't matter to me anymore. Just the fact that I am a parent, I'm grateful for that. The gratitude of being chosen to be a single parent. Because that's another thing too that people sometimes forget. Sometimes life is presenting you with the opportunity to experience feelings at a level that you're supposed to recognize as something that you should be grateful for, as a blessing, and you're actually complaining about it because you wish it was different. You wish you weren't always, doing it that way. But do you honestly think that what you're wishing for is the truth, and it would truly be what you want? A lot of times we will hear, especially now in the media, with this new, this woke agenda being passed around to live in your truth. Your truth sometimes is not even what would make you happy. You think it is, but it's not. After coaching people that live in an echelon that is way superior to mine, and they needed someone like me to help them with their mind. And sometimes it got to a point where I actually have clients that I just stopped charging, because it gets to a level where you're assisting someone, and you make appointments. They pay for your coaching, for your therapy skills, but it got to some levels where I didn't want to even charge them anymore, simply because I entered a position of just wanting to genuinely help them, and I didn't want them to think that my help was tied to their payment, that I was just creating a cycle of them needing more help because I liked the payment. So sometimes, in order to get a client to the point of actually putting into practice what I was trying to teach them, I would basically analyze, how many sessions I think I would need. Sometimes I was wrong, sometimes I was right. um, I would do an estimate of like how much I'm gonna charge, and I would charge it, in the early sessions. So at the end, there would be sessions where I wasn't charging anything, and sometimes they would argue with me. They would get upset because they felt like, they wanted to give me something, and sometimes they would. There was two clients where I wasn't charging, and after we finished our coaching sessions, they sent me lovely gifts. They got me. I felt like I was being sponsored, because they just wanted to. They were so grateful for the fact that I changed their mindset, to a place of seeing things with value, choosing to apply empathy and compassion and grace, which are universal languages. You don't need a degree to know how to apply those. I got them to a place of just being authentic, of being themselves, of not repressing their feelings and thoughts out of fear of what someone else is going to think or what others are going to think. In this Barbie movie, there was one thing that I did notice, that they also included in the storyline, which was really beautiful. They had a very lovely speech. America Ferrera did a very lovely speech about, how women are seen, or how they're expected to be, the expectations of being a woman, which I agree with. I think if you go watch the movie and you hear the speech or you've seen it online, you'll agree with it. Whether you're a woman or a man, because even if you're a man, you were probably raised by a mom, or there's some female figure in your life that you can identify that is probably something that she can relate to, so you would agree with it. But there was one thing in the movie that stood out to me as something uniquely special, and that was the perspective that they didn't have the storyline be based off of something a child was going through, which normally is what you expect. They had it's a perspective of something that even a grown-up person in the material world starts to feel empty, starts to feel void, and they have a desire and a need to return back to a moment of innocence. So it was that feeling of, no matter what generation you belong to, at some point you played with dolls in your life. And so when you start to go through moments in life, now that you are grown and you have a career and it seems like you have so many things established, and in this movie America Ferrera does play a character where she has an established life in a way, and yet there was a moment, or a couple of moments, or I would say a season actually, not just a moment, of emptiness, of feeling like there's a void. So what do you do? She has this desire to basically revert to a time of innocence, because a time of innocence allows for her to encapsulate herself into that energy and kind of forget the void that she's feeling in the life today. Is that a good practice to do? Yes, it is. It is a much better practice to do that. Some people can call that avoidance. You're trying to avoid your problems. Yeah, the material world will say you're trying to avoid your problems. But guess what? Your spirit and your mind sometimes needs you to practice some avoidance to conserve itself. In order to build resiliency, in order to be resilient, what does that mean? To be strong amidst problems, to have strength amidst problems, to not break down when life gets even worse, you need to have some level of resilience. And resilience sometimes is achieved through practices of avoidance. Why is that? Because in practicing avoidance, you're strengthening your ability to revert into a mindset of innocence, right? If that's what you're doing, you should attempt to revert back to a form of innocence, revert back to something that makes you feel extremely positive, extremely good. You don't revert to doing something evil, revert to something good, something that made you feel happy in the past. Do that again. And do that repeatedly. If it was watching a sitcom, if it was, I don't know, dressing up, whatever that was for you that made you feel happy, practicing different makeup looks, going to going to a place like where they play all these games, go there. If it's going to a trampoline place, go and jump on some trampolines. They have a lot of these locations where you can go and you can practice this. Screw it if nobody wants to go with you. Go by yourself. Go by yourself. Okay? Or find a friend to just accompany you so that you can go and do the activity. Whatever it is, if you have to avoid a problem, revert to doing something that made you feel extremely happy. Why is that? Because when you're done with the extremely happy activity and you have to go back to face the real world, the problem, it's not going to be as stressful for you. And you have now strengthened the resilience muscle of your mind. Mindset reset is all about strengthening certain perspectives in your mind so that the negative weight of stress doesn't take over your mental processing ability to the point that you don't know how to handle life. Because then you'll become a person that just wants to give up on the real world life and go hug trees. And that's not good either, because you have to be self-sufficient. No matter how many family members or whatever network you might have of friends, you need to be self-sufficient for yourself in order to be happy with your own life. You just do. So the practicing what I just told you definitely works in strengthening your ability to have resilience. For me, I like to revert back to watching like sitcoms that used to make me laugh a lot, or sometimes binge watching something that's really funny. Usually it's comedy for me, or I like to watch stand-up comedy, and I will literally just shut off the world if I have to for a few hours, or even a day. If I have to take a day, I'll take a day, and that'll be what I do for that day, because that makes me happy. And then the next day, I'll face the problematic scenario. The world's not going to end because I choose not to do it today. We have tomorrow, When you are able to navigate life this way, you're less likely to cave into a place of just giving up completely. That's another reason why that's important. So in the movie Barbie, you have a variety of shades related to mindset reset. Has nothing to do with patriarchy and matriarchy. They use that as examples for you to understand that people that were living, or let's say beings that were living in a specific setting that seemed to be happy and fulfilled in a way, and they knew their purpose and they were happy repeating it every day, all of a sudden one of them starts to feel like there's more to that, which is true. You want to wake up to life. You want to wake up to experiencing, feeling more, and then in another side, the material world side, you have someone who's experiencing all the material world things of the feeling more, but feeling like there's a void. So this kind of shows you that no matter what world scenario you're living in, it doesn't matter when it comes to yourself, no matter which one you're living in. In either one, you can feel a sense of there's more to this. I want to know the other side. No matter which side you're on, it's still a choice though. It's your choice to want to experience that. It's your choice to it's your choice to change your mindset. That's another thing the movie showed. It's a choice. You can choose it. You're not stuck in it just because that's where it's how it's always been. Just because culture says it's always been this way doesn't mean that it's the always been for you. You can create a new, it's always been this way for your new generation of what you're creating, of who you're going to build life with. So I think the movie was a really lovely story. And I also and it was funny. And I also wish that when I was a little girl that they had it, because I would have been just so amazed that my dolls actually came to life. I'm actually sad that my daughter is 15, and we went to see it, and she's 15, because I feel like if she was younger and we went to see it, it would have been hysterical to see look on her face of like Barbie's a real person. So even though there was some adultish concepts in the movie, nevertheless I still feel um, like the movie had more to do. The storyline of the creator, of whoever wrote it, was to depict that no matter what life you're in, Barbie land or the real world, material world, no matter which version you're living in, you're 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 always going to have a moment of feeling like there's more to this than just what it is, the everyday. And you could feel a void in either one. That's the other one that I noticed. You could feel a void in either one. So even though you're living in a perfect Barbie world, you could feel a void. If you're living in the real world, you could feel a void. What makes a difference? How can I change that? You can choose different. You can choose to start to reset your mind different. How do you reset your mind different? By practicing certain things that start to alter the patterns in your mind towards the positive. What do you say to yourself? You believe what you repeat. You know, your brain cannot determine what's reality from what's imaginary. Your brain can't determine the difference. That's why sometimes some dreams will seem so real life to you that in the actual dream, you actually think that you're awake. It's you. You think it's your real life. I mean, just a few days ago, I had a dream like that. I actually thought it was the real thing until I woke up and there I was in my California king bed and it was the morning, you know? And I was like, oh wait, that was just then I was confused. I thought, am I in a dream now or was that a dream? Like I was trying to figure that out. So I know everyone has dreams like this because your brain can't determine the difference. You know, I know this seems really it seems really crazy to say that, but as a scientist, I'm telling you, and certified in social psychology, the brain cannot depict or cannot really discern the difference. It's up to you to make that discernment. You make that discernment with your mindfulness, with your consciousness. But even in that, it's difficult sometimes. So you are what you repeat. You believe what you repeat, and what you repeat in your mind is what you start to believe about yourself. So start to believe the good things. Start to believe the positive things. Start to believe the even if you have to, because everyone has in their imagination this image of themselves that's like so amazing, start repeating that to yourself to the point, just start repeating it to yourself every day. That version of yourself that you have in your mind, and only you know that you have in your mind. That version of yourself that is a image of just how fabulous and wonderful you are. Repeat that to yourself. Visualize it. Write it down. Say it to yourself. You know, text it or not text it. Some people can't do that. I can do that because I have like four different accounts actually. WhatsApp accounts, but if you can't text it to yourself, write it in an email to yourself, write it in a notebook to yourself. Whatever that visual image, descriptive image you have of yourself that's very, very beautiful and positive, write it down. As narcissistic as it might seem, writing that down and repeating that to yourself will actually create a mental cycle that will become almost like a default to your mind. And then once you start to have that as a default, it's very hard for you not to be confident. You know, you want to escape feeling shy, you need to start writing and repeating the wonderful things that are true about you within yourself. Stop escaping that and stop allowing the negative to always overrule everything else that's positive. You know, that's another thing the movie showed. The movie showed that some characters were basically following along what everybody else was doing, but it got to a point that they were just feeling like, this is not even me. And that's how we are in the world. You're living a life, you're doing things, you believe you're following your passion, but really what you're doing is you're just setting your life up in order to prove a point to everybody else around you, because you need to have your life set by a certain time or at a certain stage or in a certain way in order to be considered successful. And no, your success is not going to come from things and from power. Your success is going to come from your character. You know, having a character of integrity makes you a more successful person than a person who is, owner of like a franchise business. Yeah, that's great. They're owner of a franchise business. What's their character like? Because you're going to deal with people's character. You're not going to deal with their business. You're not going to be dealing with their money. You can't deal with money. Money is an inanimate object of paper, okay? You can't deal with money. And sometimes it's not even paper. It's just numbers on some digital platform. It's not even real. It doesn't even really exist. If you were to go to the bank to take out all the money, if everybody did that, whether you have $10 or you have millions of dollars or billions in the bank, if everybody went in one day to take out all their money to, like, I don't know, let's say they decide to take out all their money in one day, the banks couldn't even give it to you. They don't even have it. So you're not dealing with that. Success is your character. That's what makes you successful. So this movie also depicts that too, because in this movie, one of the reasons why the main character, Barbie, started to feel like she's not successful for herself and her life and how she's going every day is because she didn't know, she was questioning what her character was. What is my character? She knew her character had a name, but she was starting to feel like there's more to my character than just this, and this is the physical representation of who she was. So I can't understand the definition. I went in to watch the movie with the idea of like, oh my God, they're depicting like one governmental form against another setup. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be fun to see how they play men against women, because it's still fun to watch. But then as I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, that's existing in the movie, but that's not really what it's trying to tell you. It's very important that you don't get influenced by other people's opinions and their description of things, even as educated and non-biased and objective they may seem. Don't use it for yourself. Experience it for yourself first. Experience it for yourself first. Put yourself in those shoes yourself. You know why? Because your mind is going to have a different type of discernment than other people. And your discernment might be a more emotional, loving, compassionate discernment than someone else who's only glued to the materialistic world view of it, that they can't see the compassionate perspective. They can't see the empathetic perspective. This doesn't mean that you are weaker and that you're seeing the perspective from a side of just being understanding and be nice to everyone. No, because sometimes the empathetic perspective makes you understand who deserves the punishment and who doesn't. Whereas the materialistic view perspective sometimes says the guilty person is innocent and the innocent person should actually be the guilty one and should be canceled. So you can't apply the worldview perspective when you're applying discernment to certain things. As a matter of fact, it actually never works. Because if that was the case, we wouldn't be in a culture where even though it's innocent till proven guilty, what we're really seeing is you're guilty even when you're proven innocent. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It might say on paper and in the system you're innocent, but as far as everyone else is concerned that knows about it, you will always be seen as guilty. I mean, maybe there'll be people who will stand up for you in terms of with themselves believing you're innocent and accepting it, but they're not going to be very vocal about it if the majority is spitting out that you're guilty. So that's my take on the Barbie movie. I definitely think you should go watch it. It's fun. It's funny. Whether you're a guy or a girl, I don't think it matters. Even though the name of the movie is Barbie, there's a lot of male energy perspective in the movie for even men to laugh at just the ridiculousness of men. I don't think men are made fun of. I don't, because again, it's coming from a perspective of like if a little girl or girls or kids are playing with their dolls, so that's what this, where it comes from, and it just also comes from the perspective of like that's comical. I mean, Will Ferrell is in the movie, for crying out loud. Any movie where Will Ferrell is in it, it's going to be satirical, it's going to be sarcastic, it's going to be silly in a way. It doesn't mean it's making fun. Will Ferrell is known for making fun of certain male genres. Anyway, that's just who he is. You know, if you don't believe me, go watch the movie Eurovision. You know, I guess Eurovision should be talked about also, because it's a movie where he depicts a character with another person to go on a contest, a song contest. So I guess they were, you know, they were making fun of the song contest. You know, they were making fun of countries. And that's not how anyone in Europe did not take it that way. They understood that basically what he was doing is just making fun of the process of being in that song contest and what happens to people and how serious they take it when it's really not that serious. So go watch it. Hopefully you can apply your discernment and understand what I just said and feel the same way. I really hope so. Because it does tell the beautiful story of no matter which world you are living in, anybody can come to the point, and it's very natural to come to that point in life where you start to feel like there's more to this, and I want to feel the more to this that there is, you know? And it doesn't matter anymore who I am, what position I have, what power I do or don't have. Those things don't even matter if I can't be authentically myself. And being authentically yourself has nothing to do with my truth. Being authentically yourself means being okay with being vulnerable, being okay with crying, being okay with sharing emotion, being okay with saying you experience it, being okay with just experiencing it. That's what being authentic is. It doesn't mean that you're mushy and that you're weak. And it doesn't mean that if you're a man, you shouldn't cry. There's places and moments for that if you're a man. If you're a woman, you shouldn't cry. Again, there's places and moments for that if you're a woman. Shouldn't be judged for either one. Shouldn't be judged for either one, because if both sides are being authentic, then neither side's going to judge the other for that. But if one side's being authentic and the other side is kind of still living in a materialistic world perspective of it, they're going to be judgmental no matter what. They're going to judge. They're going to be petty. They're going to judge. They're not going to know how to be compassionate or graceful or have empathy, because their perspective is on the black and white of the world. Whereas the Barbie movie's trying to show you there's more to black and white. There's also pink. There's different shades of pink. But even in the different shades of pink, it's not the same shade for everybody. And not necessarily everybody wears pink. And you'll notice in the movie how they play with the colors, how the movie ends, and what the character Barbie is wearing. The color doesn't define you, you know? Feeling doesn't, wanting to feel has nothing to do even with the color you wear. So that's another thing too. What you're wearing doesn't represent exactly what's going on inside either, you know? So I hope you enjoy what I just shared. I hope it gave a perspective to some people that haven't seen it yet. Or if you're gonna go watch the Barbie movie, you know, at least I'm giving you a positive perspective, because I don't think a lot of them are out there. I congratulate the director and the producer and the whole team that was involved in the creation of this project. I think it was really good. It was really lovely to have something like this, and that it's played with real actors, not as an animation. And we should be appreciative that technology even allows for us to recreate and reproduce a story like this in a real life setting, in a real life kind of studio setup. And that's it. I just wanted to hop on and share this with you from my sacred space. So I'm going to end this episode of Love Tribe. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to being with you guys in our next episode. I have some more surprises coming along. Check the show more section if you want to be part of this movement. If you want to join my channel, please click subscribe. And check out one of my previous episodes. I talk about my testimony of almost losing my life. That really inspired me to have this review today, because it gave me the ability to have a different discernment forever in everything in life. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I love you. Remember, you're fabulous, you're amazing, and don't ever try to match energy. Always keep your energy high. Always vibe higher than everyone else, and don't ever match because you can't match what's unique. If you're unique, then remember, stay as you are, be as you are, and you're amazing. I love you for watching.